daily Gartley, which I'll pop up, we can take a look at too. So we want to get the fib work set up on that. We did not cover the timing work yet. I understand we're going to have lunch around 11:30. So probably, by the time we're done with lunch, the market still should be kind of slow. So that's when we'll cover the Fibonacci timing work. And the goal today really is going to be to look at the trigger combinations in relation to the fib levels, all right, to identify trades. I'm not going to stand here though and go, okay, let's take this trade, and if it comes up and I'm standing here and we can walk through a trade, that's great. I will tell you, this is about to trigger, take a look at it, let's watch it trigger, and this is where the stop would be, and so on. So we will do that, but I don't want to get married to watching a trade so much that we end up skipping something that's essential. And what's essential to me, really, for those of you who came prepared and set up with your computers and everything, is probably this afternoon, maybe a little time this morning, I want to spend time with whoever wants to spend time one-on-one, to see what you're doing with the work itself, okay? Because that's something that we found in the past has been very, very productive to make sure that, you're setting up the stuff properly and seeing what I'm seeing as, as much as you want to. So let's see what's going on with the fib work on our Forex charts. I have to remember to walk over to this computer and not trip or break anything, including myself, hopefully. And so, all right, we have our 60-minute charts done for the most part on the Canadian and the Aussie, but I like to see what's going on the 15-minute as well. All right, actually, here, let's zoom in here a little bit. This, as you can see here, this is something I showed you yesterday. I marked off that on a corrective bounce, this is the area we'd expect to have hold, all these targets, all right? So now we're looking short again. We have some intervening support. Okay, I want to put in some symmetry resistance to measure that short side maintains. Okay, I'm also going to take another retracement, high to low. All right, again, to measure the strength. Actually, I even took out the 236 just to make things a little easier, because it's a level I don't use all that much. Excuse me. So this way we can see, for example, if it were to bounce up to the 382, we would look for a possible hold there because there might be a great deal of interest in driving it downside. Let's see if I can expand this guy a little bit. Yeah, the CCI on the 60-minute, I think I'll get down like this, will be easier. Okay. The 60-minute CCI on the Canadian is doing what? Anyone want to answer? Yeah, actually what we had here was the 50-34 short on the 60-minute. All right, so what we're looking for here now is the possibility, you see it's at minus 29. So this is in position for an additional short side trigger, actually. This could give us a reject of the zero line to the downside. It would even be better if it were to rally just a little bit more, because then we'd have that 6 cross above 0. And we'd be able to be in position for a 50-34Z short. Okay, so we're looking for that possibility. Have a lot of res. Let me see what else is going on here. Just want to make sure all the levels are in. Yeah, if this were to really drop, the main level we'd be concerned about would be the 786 on the downside, because that's the level that has to break for the short to continue to the target, okay? Like we talked about before. One thing also we want to have on this chart is from the open yesterday to the high. We want to use our retracement tool, and you see where it's holding now is the 1272 of that swing. So had you been short on this already, you'd have to be aware that you're at a target. Okay, so that might not be the final target, but it's where you can expect to bounce. So you'd want to be ready to manage your trade or take partial profits. There's several ways of managing the trade, as we discussed. Take partial profits, tighten your stop, a combination of both. It depends on your own money management, what's appropriate for you in that kind of consideration. And now on the 15-minute chart, we have more swings here we can use for symmetry. And basically, if you were still short, you'd have your stop above here, because you'd want to only stay in that short if the rhythm of the downtrend were maintaining. Okay? So all I'm doing is taking the expansion tool, which is set for 100% only, taking prior corrective rallies, and projecting from the new low. Okay? All right. And we can also take this little 15-minute swing, this one, baby one at the bottom, and also use our retracement tool, low to high, to see where our shorter term targets would be. Okay? And we can even do it the other way around. Now this is showing some indecision at the moment because it broke the downside 786 aiming to these targets, and it looks like it's trying to break the upside 786 to head up here. All right, so and it is doing that. So let's see if this area turns out to be only a corrective bounce. In other words, if it falls from here. All right, we had on this time frame also, I'm trying to get both of these in here. What I'm doing now, just so we can read this by the way, is getting that tool tip up and holding down my shift key and left clicking, and it leaves that nice price label there. Okay? And yeah, this is actually rallying a little bit now. Now notice that what happened on the triggers earlier on, we had a nice minus 100 line bounce. Look at that. See that? And that's where this drop occurred. Then we had another minus 100 line bounce. Now this one's failed because it gave us, we had the minus 100 line bounce trigger, and before it could make a new swing low, the 50 CCI broke back above minus 100. So this is saying there's some instability in the idea of this downtrend continuing. Okay, let's do this also. We can go to a more recent high to low with our retracement tool. And what am I looking for here? If it breaks through our immediate resistance, here's the 786. Okay, I'm going to bold that. We also have some symmetry on top of it. We're going to want to see if that holds or breaks. That might coincide with the 50 CCI 0 line. Because if that breaks, we're shifting pattern here. If the 786 breaks, we're probably going back up to the 1272. All right. But meanwhile, we had indications to get rid of any short that we had already, because we broke back above minus 100. This is what how I would do it. If we break back above minus 100 here, failed minus 100 line bounce, it's saying there might be some upside momentum coming back into the market. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, cool. So we want to watch out for that possibility. Is this going to give us another short side trigger? I'd have to be looking for a re-entry here. In other words, our initial target on the 60-minute held. Okay, I'm not ready to take a long here yet though. If you're going to take a long here, it would have to be a quick trade off a 3-minute chart. Okay, because we still have a heck of a lot of resistance. The 60-minute is lining up for a possible 50-34Z short. This might just be a retest of the 34 EMA and the 50 CCI 0 line. Okay, so that's what we have to be on the lookout for there. On the Aussie, it's basically the inverse pattern. Okay, this was the termination of a corrective decline. I can get rid of these guys just to clear the chart up a little bit. All right, and you see what happened is it rallied from there and it didn't even quite challenge the 786. And you see the 50 CCI curved back below the plus 100 line. And on the 15-minute, I'm just looking at triggers at the moment. Yeah, it's the exact inverse actually. You had earlier nice long side triggers if you were up at 5 in the morning, you know, and so on. And now we broke down below plus 100. All right, so on a 15-minute based execution chart, we would need to exit that long. Okay, the fib was a warning, the 786. I'm going to bold that because we know if this is going to follow through to long side, it's going to be dependent on this level breaking. Okay, I'm also going to put in, I can take out this target down here, retracement tool, low to high, and we're going to want to see if we actually end up testing that 786, because if that breaks, we're talking about follow through lower down. Now, what did I say yesterday about 786s? The bouncing. All right, this 786 is holding. If it holds this, if we actually decline to that 786 and it holds, we're just in congestion. All right, crisscrossing the 34 EMA, crisscrossing the CCI at that point, those would go below 0, and so on. So we have to watch out for the possibility that we're going to get into congestion.
What if it breaks 786 and when you start becoming suspicious of that?
Of a Gartley? Yeah, if it breaks the, exactly, you're right. If it breaks the 786 here, we're going to head down into Gartley territory. I'm just, let me clean up these charts a little bit so we can read this a little bit more clearly. The Gartley targets would be here. In other words, the Gartley support. So let's fill in the expansion, which will also, oops, clicked that in the wrong place, which will also serve as a reminder that it's a Gartley. All right, so we're going to go in this case A to B from C, and you see here's where the Gartley support would be if it were to break down. And so, yeah, 1272 to start, and down to 1618. All right, so we'd have to watch for the possibility of that being Gartley support holding. We would focus on now. When would I become suspicious of it? I'd have it set up already.
Okay.
Yeah. But that obviously will only be activated, those targets, if we break below that. Right, exactly.
Mark,
Yes.
if we were hitting the 786 over there,
Here?
exceeding the 786, then could we say there's a rally up to maybe 127.8?
Yes, exactly.
If it holds 786, is there enough information so that you can go short from that point?
Not yet for me. If it holds the resistance, again, it depends on the time frame that you're trading. If you were trading off, for me, if I were trading off a 3-minute chart, for example, there might be a short side trigger, but with a very close target. At this point, our CCIs are still above 0 on both the 15 and the 60-minute chart, so we still have to be aware of the possibility that this might hold support and flip around to long side. See, we still have symmetry here. The concept of long side is still intact. All right, so basically what this is saying so far is that there were some nice trades earlier while we were probably all snoozing, which is what happens with Forex. Sometimes you can't stay up 24 hours, although I have tried in the past. Yeah, see, we still have some symmetry. And what we'll have to do here is just monitor what happens as we come down to support. Are we going to hold? You see this? The 15-minute chart is in a perfect position now for a long 50-14 long possibility. Okay? It is possible. It's not triggered yet. The 60 is also in position for a 50-34Z long. So I'm not going to take a short into that. I'm not taking a short until we get at least a 50 CCI short side trigger on the 15-minute, which would be the 50 crossing down below 0. All right? If this is a little corrective decline, look at this. We're already coming down to the 15-minute targets. See this? So I'm not going to take a short right into a target level. See, that was low to high with the retracement tool. So if this is just a little corrective decline, the momentum indicators are not talking about a short yet. So I would not be willing to do that. We've also broken the 786 to the upside on the 15-minute, so it really should be going higher. So it's not something I want to do. It would be shorting into a potential brick wall. Now, of course, it might flip to the short side, but that's why you have to be patient. Wait for your actual triggers. All right, I'm going to put a little closer support here as well, because what do I want to see here also? The closer 786. Okay? So again, it depends on your time frame. I mean, if we were to look at a 3-minute chart, we probably have a long side trigger on the Canadian and a short side trigger on the Aussie. But whenever I mentioned 3-minute chart yesterday, you guys, were not too happy about it. So I'm not going to stress that idea. Okay, and on our GBP, again, it's just I'm in an unfamiliar environment, so I hit the wrong spot on this chart. I'm going high to low with the retracement tool to see what's going on here with potential longs on our GBP. Okay, actually, we should set up more fib work on this chart. Well, we did a lot of that yesterday, right? Yeah. Well, we can take a look at those, sure. I mean, we know that on the GBP we're working on that daily Gartley. Let's see, I think this is the daily on that. Yeah, see, this is where we are on the daily. Yeah, it's right here. It broke, yeah, it broke the res. Sweetie, you asked for the daily. Here it is. This is the daily, and the daily is triggered long. Okay, so, yes, and it might just be pulling back to retest a little bit. That's why I'm saying it's indicating that it may be pulling back to give us a retest of the zero, a second trigger, the 5034Z. So you want to be careful taking shorter term shorts when your daily is triggered long. Not only is it triggered long, but it just triggered long. Okay, so this is what we're looking at on the daily. This is a big Gartley support pattern. Okay. Yeah, you guys see, you remember the Gartley from yesterday, everyone? Yeah, so you know it's here. What we're looking for is the potential for this to go like this. That's a trend line tool. It's over here. Yeah, and the trend line tool, if you want to draw it freehand like that, you have to turn the magnet off. I turn the magnet off because otherwise it's going to work as a perfect trend line and connect highs and lows. See? Yeah. So that's what we're hoping for. If we don't care about the dollar, once again, that's yeah.
And we don't.
Yeah. But you see what happened is, remember I said yesterday that the currencies often respect the 50% level. So yeah, but the 50% is more likely to be temporary, especially because we broke the symmetry resistance on the way up already. So we have to take these things into consideration then when we're looking at our shorter term charts. Here, I'll show you. The resistance, let me turn the expansion tool back on. The symmetry resistance was low to high from this low. And you see that broke? We had a close above it. This is the GBP USD. That's a symmetry resistance level expansion. Yeah. So, okay, well, it broke as far as I'm concerned because we had a close above it. Okay? So now we just have to look at that 50% level. Okay? Meanwhile, we know the bias overall is to upside because we still have the long side trigger on the daily. Our 60-minute is just triggering long now with quite a lot of time left in the bar. All right, that's counting down in seconds. Okay, so it's 3,600 seconds in one 60-minute bar. So we're not quite down to the we're not down to the last third of the bar yet. Here, basically, what I'm doing is what I want to see would be, look at this. Here's a potential 5034Z long on the 15-minute. Okay? See this possibly rejecting the zero line to upside? This gets just a little bit more developed, a little bit farther into the bar. We have a long trigger on the 15-minute with a long trigger setting up on the 60. Because it's in the right position. If I'm going to visualize any potential trigger, the most likely trigger that would occur here would be the 50 rejecting, holding above zero. We have symmetry support, the 50 rejecting above zero, and the 6 crossing back above zero would give us a 5034Z long. Okay, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm saying that's what may happen, and it's in alignment with the idea that we're looking long side longer term. All right, if that stuff cuts below zero on the 15-minute chart, then I'm going to have to change my tune and say, you know what, we have and we break the symmetry support. But I'm saying because we have the symmetry support, it's more likely to face that direction. Now look at the Canadian. The 60-minute is popping above 50 CCI is popping above the 0 line. The 14 is still to the downside, so this could still turn around and go short. And I don't even have a 15-minute long side trigger yet. All right. So, but we did break the 786, so we may make it up to this level here. The 14 is important in the triggers where it is used. The 50-14, for example, here. Let's say we were to get a short side trigger on the Canadian, we would need to see the 14 and the 6 back below 0. Think of it this way, to simplify it a little bit, you basically just want to see all the CCIs on the same side of 0. Okay? Because that's the equivalent of price moving to that side of those moving averages. Right, okay? Looks like we're just about getting along on the 15-minute GBP, all right? And all you do if that trigger is long, let me just make sure this is set right. Yeah, the keep live is on. If you get along here, all you're going to do is take an entry. Your initial target would be 63.70. I think we broke the intervening 786 already anyway, which also encourages long side. Yeah, see? The 786 is broken. And as the symmetry, as the symmetry moves up automatically, you go to your order entry. Yeah, it's triggering long on there. You go to the order entry and you just trail the stop behind the symmetry. Okay? In other words, you see the symmetry here? So here's where you'd have your stop, under 63.06. And as we start to make new highs towards the target, this is going to move up automatically, and you just move the stop up under the symmetry. Well, that depends on your order entry system. This is not an order entry system. It depends on where the symmetry is. I want my stop in a place where if it breaks, it invalidates the long. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you look at your account and you do your money management work, and your money management tells you you can't afford that stop, you don't take the trade. Okay? That's what it amounts to. What kind of stop do you like? Yeah.
Not sure.
Okay, well that's why you got to read Van Tharp. You know?
Mark,
Yes.
when you're having several red lines like you have,
Yeah.
which are all coming from the same system,
Yes.
which one do you take as the lead line?
These guys are basically similar. These two are similar. That's why I didn't emphasize one of them. If there is a more recent swing that's a little larger, I'll emphasize that one. In other words, that one would be more important. Good question, and we'll cover that as it comes up during the day. Okay?
Because yesterday I was just looking at different graphs.
Sorry if I'm standing in the way.
Say that you're going to be stopped out at the end to them to lose a lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't let your losses run. Definitely. Don't shine a projector in my eyes either. Yeah. You are better off. You are much better off always getting stopped out tightly, and then seeing the trade take off without you even, instead of going, I think it's going to turn around. Okay? Never get into that situation. Never get into that. I'll give you an example. Who's here now who trades the ES? No one? ES? Are you?
I have, but I don't.
Okay, well, same idea on the YM or whatever. My stop on the ES, and I'm just using this as an example because I can quote the numbers more easily and readily because I do it every day. My default stop on the ES is 8 ticks. Okay? When I get out of the trade, the amount of time that I actually have the 8-tick hit is minimal because the chart is giving me a reason to get out sooner, a symmetry break. In other words, the 8-tick stop is only there in case I get disconnected from the internet or something. Same idea here. You can have a default stop, all the way down wherever you want it, but if this symmetry breaks, okay, if this 63.06 that held already, see how that's holding? If that breaks, you don't have a reason to be long anymore because the price itself is telling you that the reason you got in the trade no longer exists, okay? So if you sit there and you go, oh, maybe it'll turn around, why? What are you basing that decision on? Because you have an investment in the trade already? Protect yourself. I can't stress that enough. I really can't stress that enough. You cannot get into hope mode that way. The chart is going to tell you when the trade is still intact and when it's not. All right? So this measures the rhythm of the uptrend. If that breaks, You no longer have that strength of uptrend. All right? And you see we have our stuff holding on the Aussie. That's why I wasn't looking for a short on the Aussie. You know, again, if you wanted a short on the Aussie, you'd have to be aware of all the support that you're trading into. You know, that support is there, so it's in the way. You're taking a massively counter-trend trade if you do that. All right, Canadian is a little bit twisted right now. As I said, I'm still voting for the idea of it flipping the short side, but I don't have a support break that's telling me it's definitely aiming for a target. Remember on the daily, I keep walking over there because I forget the Forex charts are here. On the daily on the Canadian, let me just show you that for perspective. You know, this is what you have to do on the Forex too. If you only like one security, one Forex pair, and it's not setting up for you, go and do something else that day, okay? Or the alternative, like I said yesterday, is you could look at another pair instead. And I'll tell you right now on the Canadian, we have some conflict, because if we look at the daily, what do we have on the daily? All right, it's not as conflicted as I thought, actually, because what we have on the daily is the fact that we're bouncing from a major target, okay? Bouncing from a target that's been in place since July, the beginning of July, I think. Yeah, July 8th, okay? This is the second target. It's the 1618 target of that swing, okay? So that's a strong target. We also don't have any 786 break to focus us on lower targets. So there's a reason to believe this might need to bounce more. It's not up to symmetry resistance yet. It is in a permissible, just barely position for a minus 100 line bounce on the daily, all right? But that's just at minus 150 now, 151, all right? So that might actually need to correct a little bit more and get closer. Even if it's going to give us a daily short side trigger, that might need to get a little bit higher, okay? So what that boils down to is if we take it down to the 60-minute chart, is that we have the makings of indecision, is what it amounts to. Why didn't this? There we go.
What's your most utilized
As far as the pair?
Well, let's say to use, the pair.
I'll tell you, when this Canadian had broken support, you said, look at even on the 60-minute. Once we broke the 786, we were just aiming for additional downside targets until we made major targets. So that was incredibly reliable. Then
It depends on which chart.
It depends on what's going on. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is now the Canadian's a little bit up in the air because it's very extended to downside, but we haven't started to build an upside pattern yet. Okay.
It doesn't matter on
No.
size of currency.
No, it doesn't matter at all. It's just a matter of whether or not we have a break. See, like this one right now, the GBP, we have that 786 break aiming us at 6370. All right. We also are following through on our 60-minute long side trigger. Okay. 6370 also. Watch this. 6370. 1272 is above the 60-minute 786. So if we make that target, we'll break that 786, and our real target is 6442. Do you see?
Yeah.
That's nested 786s.
60 minutes. Store chart for 10.
15. All right? That's a very basic concept that we use every day. Nested 786s. Okay? This one broke, so we're aiming here. If we do make the target, and look, 15-minute just popped above plus 100. You want it to stay there to tell you there's enough momentum for this scenario to follow through.
When you say on the daily that you want to get a little higher, do you mean closer to 100?
Minus 100, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, minus 100.
Yeah. All right, and now we have the Canadian, holding res. I'm not comfortable with the Canadian right now, particularly. Look, the symmetry moved up automatically. Start trailing your stop. All right, now what I'm going to do is bold this one. You know why? Because it held once, and now it held again. So that represents the rhythm of the trend, okay? So that's where you want your stop, is right under 6309, okay? And if you wanted to really watch where you might get a pullback, you could even put in a smaller, shorter term target, retracement tool high to low, because you might get a little interim pullback. I'm getting rid of these levels by hitting Control click. Just click on the lines. You might get an interim pullback. You can think about whether or not you want to do something like tighten your stop a little bit more. What's your profit target personally? How much money do you want to make on this trade? We're aiming at least for 63.70, but you might get a little bit of resistance in here because it's the target of this minus swing. Okay? Is that clear to anyone who cares? Okay. Well, I hear a lot of conversations going on, and that's fine.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
You said that it's a little bit expanded on the downside.
Yes.
You're oversold, yeah?
Well, yeah, the very fact that it's at an extension.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you check it with another, like RSI or something?
You can. Even without any indicator on the chart, even without any indicator whatsoever, I'm looking at the fib first, and it's at the 1618 target that we've had in since July.
1618.
Yes, the 1618, and we do not have a 786 break pointing us at a lower target. All right, so we have to pay attention to the possibility of those targets holding. Okay. Right. It's just they're called extensions for a reason. You know, that's the deal. And like I said, if I had a break pointing me at a lower target, I'd go, this is an interim target, and it might bounce, and then I don't have that break, so now it's kind of like, you know, we've been short on that on and off since the beginning of the year.
Okay.
Enough money. Yeah. Now it's handled with care. Okay. So what happens then is you have to just focus on shorter term trades. You know, if this does line up and trigger short again, you see how this is curving at the 50 zero line? That may give us a 50-14 short. See the 14 at plus 100? It may confirm the momentum to short side. It may not. This one's up in the air to me. One thing you have to do when you're looking at a chart is recognize if it's not telling you anything. You know, whatever. Now you guys might look at that chart and say, my method tells me what that's going to do. That's great. That's great. Tell me, please. That's wonderful. My method doesn't. This is noise right now. All right. There was a short earlier, as I said, if you were up, you know, in the middle of the night. But at the moment, now let's just watch our GBP because we want to make sure, like I said.
Excuse me, sir. Can we hear what he's talking about? We didn't come here to listen to you.
Okay. Well, anyway.
Please don't come here.
Let's see what's going on here. Okay, well, actually, if people want to, you know, have other conversations, we can go in another room. Yeah, well, it's not a free seminar though, so let's see if we can focus, or we can actually divide the room up if people would like to talk somewhere else.
Has the seminar started already?
Yes, we've been talking and recording and everything.
Because the paper said 8:13 is actually.
I wasn't aware that. I was told 8 myself.
No, so I must check.
Okay. Okay.
It was officially started this morning time because.
Okay. Well, we've been talking. Anyway, we can move on from here and hopefully just have some positive energy. Would be a good thing. Yeah. So that's what's going on here anyway. I'm just about ready to take a break, actually. So maybe you guys want to follow up your conversation. Sooner or later, it's 8:30, and sooner or later we're going to have to set up the fib on the ES too. Okay. So we can just keep an eye on this. What I was saying though is watch that 100 line. Okay, if you're basing the trade on the 15-minute, you really want that 50 CCI to remain above plus 100. Okay. And that's the deal. So we're looking here for the possibility, again, that we might get long side triggers on the Aussie. We might get our short side triggers on the Canadian. Yeah, let's make sure the fib work is correct here, because I would want to track support on the way down. Bless you. You know, because if there's going to be anything in the way of this continuing to downside, it's going to be the 786. Okay? So what does that tell you also? You probably would want to be very careful with an entry here if you're entering right at the 786. Why? Again, because I don't have a longer term target that's activated. So the possibility of this congesting is a little bit higher. Okay? So, yeah, that's the deal on these at the moment. Anyone want to look at another Forex pair at the moment? Okay. Yeah. And the GBP, you know, we know it's fighting the 50% daily level.
Do you look at the ODM in your phone?
To the what?
ODM?
I don't have it loaded right now, but yeah. Yeah. Cross rates. The cross rates. Yeah.
From the middle,
This?
Aussie.
Yes, that's Aussie.
Okay.
Or your,
Is it possible to make a retracement just to see what would be the support on the...
Here, that's these guys.
Yeah. Well, can we, if you take the lowest,
Here.
well, I want to...
Okay, again, please watch the wires.
We were taking this low to this high.
That's on the 15-minute. Look here. Look at the screen, please. Low to high.
Okay.
Okay? Because that's shorter term stuff. That's a shorter term chart. On the 60, I'm more concerned about the major. I have that low to high.
Okay.
Okay?
so on the 60 minute, just more, I mean, like he said, you have the 0 that is important, sometimes the 50 is important, sometimes.
What is important?
Depending on where the line, I'm talking about the indicator.
Oh, the indicator. Which?
Only the format that you show, sometimes 0 is important, sometimes maybe 0 to 50.
Give me, which chart are we talking about?
No, this is a general.
I know, but can you see it up there so I can answer maybe with an example?
Right where our,
Okay, here?
for example, we have the 50 over the 0.
Right.
We have the 14.
We need the 14 and the 6 to cross above 0 for a long side trigger. Okay? That's called a 50-14. Do you have your workbook? Do you have the workbook with you?
Yes.
Yeah, because I just want to show you where that is, so you have the example.
The first leg of the guard is possibly 78.6.
Between 618 and 786 is failure there. That is, 50-14 is 50 CCI above 0, 14 CCI or 20 on the daily, to minus 100 and then back above. That's what has to happen there. Okay? Because also you want to be aware we have some resistance there and we have the plus 100 line in the way on the 50 CCI. Remember how that works together? So that'll start to break the res if we can just break that, if we can get the 50-14 long. All right? Look, we got another new little swing high there on the GBP, so what are you going to do? Just trail your stop. Okay? And it's behind that. That number represents the rhythm of the price. Sorry? Yeah, the arrow. All the arrow is doing is showing us the current price, and it's counting down. Yeah, and that's counting down the seconds left in the bar.
How frequently do you just second trades and go like between your entry, your target, and the speed?
You can do that. It depends on your time frame. Once again, if you're trading off a 60-minute trigger, basically that's what we're looking for here is the 15 to lead to the 60. Put your stop in, go do something else, but check on it so you can move your stop. If you're already triggered and you're trying to hold something based on a daily chart, then
bring even just maintain.
right, yeah, but the symmetry lets you keep the stop as tight as you want to. You can leave it farther. If you want to have a looser stop, use the larger sim. And if you don't want to evaluate it, if you don't want to sit there and watch it, don't sit there and watch it. You could also set an auto trail, if you want. But if you're basing it off a higher time frame and you want to go and do something else, then you just move the stop when you feel like it, as long as you have profit targets in place. Okay? So, that's my way with it. I'm kind of, like I said, conservative. Some of you might go, hey, we should be long already on that Aussie. Yes, you could be long on the Aussie earlier, like I said, when we were probably all still snoozing or trying to get over a hangover or something, depending on who I'm talking to. So that's the deal here. Now, by the way, on the ES, what I'm very interested in seeing, and again, that applies whether you're looking at Forex or anything else, is remember we have that 786 res that we talked about yesterday at 1090. Pre-market is already at 1088.25. So we're seeing a potential retest or first test of that 1090 786. It's going to be very interesting to see if that actually Gartley's or breaks through. If that breaks the upside 786, we're going to make new daily swing highs. All right, so that's what we're waiting to see about there.
You see the same thing in the ES that I'm seeing in the NQ. There's a Gartley.
Yes, I've sent out that chart to my clients this morning.
Oh.
Yeah, there are potential Gartleys with ES, NQ, and YM. Yeah, just the. Yep. Yeah, well, it's not confirmed as a Gartley yet because it hasn't. Yeah, it's holding the res, but you see, it's also holding the support here. Okay.
pretty complicated. Don't talk about those squares.
Yes, I love to talk about squares. So I certainly will, because what you're seeing on this chart are some Fibonacci Trader tools that I haven't had a chance to talk about yet. So we'll be talking about those. Okay? And why don't we take a little break and regroup? Okay? It'd be a good idea. Yeah. Watch that 100 line. If it, the thing is, if it breaks intra-bar, not that important. It's right kind of flirting with it. Main thing is that symmetry has to hold. That's a must. I'm just looking for my laser pointer. There it is. Yeah. And Aussie is still in midair, not triggered, and so is the Canadian. But now, who asked me when to update the charts? Well, yes, I know. I was looking at you. I was just phrasing the question that way. You have on the 15-minute Canadian, there's a new high, and what you'd want to do is just update the symmetry there. Okay? Particularly because you're going to want to see if you have a symmetry level overlapping a major retracement. Which, no, but it automatically will move up the current levels, but it's not going to put in a new level. You see, we just took out that swing high. You see that? We just took out this swing high, so we had to take that high to low and project from that high. It doesn't create the levels automatically, but if it keeps rallying, it will pull it up automatically. Okay? That's where the manual part comes in. And this is still up in the air. What I would like to see, possibly on the Canadian, no guarantee of this, like I said, that's really up in the air. But what I'd like to see is we're still lined up better for short side triggers on this. Unless the 14 CCI on the 60-minute chart gets above 0, this could still just curve right under and give us a short. So if that's going to happen, we'll start breaking the symmetry support to invalidate the idea that it's an uptrend on the shorter term. Okay? So that's the deal there. We're looking to see if we can continue on our GBP trade. Looks like we're getting to a long here also on the Aussie. All right, it's not quite far enough in the bar, but it's pretty dang close. Okay, so let's keep our eye on that. Meanwhile, since we're getting, what time is it? Oh, okay, well, we might as well set up the ES levels. Someone asked me on our little break, someone asked me about, to go over the Gartley again, and since we have a potential Gartley over there, we might as well create it. Actually, what I'm going to do is get rid of all of our levels and start from scratch.
What time chuckle primarily for entries on the 3-minute?
Yeah, you know what? Let me do this fib stuff first.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, and then I'll describe which chart is which. No, thank you for reminding me. But that's my first step, is to get our fib in alignment. Yeah, this is a 45-minute S&P chart. Regular trading hours only. Forex folks probably are like, what does that mean?
Why don't you use the overnight in the ES as well?
I only use that for my trigger charts. The reason we don't use the overnight is because the volume is so much lower that even just a small order can drive the market all over the place, and it can disrupt patterns that will be valid. In other words, we could have, this is a potential Gartley, and you'll see that in a couple of minutes when I set that up. But overnight, it could be over here, it could be over here, it could be over here. If it opens in there, the Gartley is still valid.
It's only for pattern purposes.
For pattern and whether or not a level holds or breaks, yeah. In other words, if a level breaks overnight, it's not broken if it's not broken at the open. Okay? It's a different market. We consider the market a different market. Whenever you have a security that has a much more intensive period of volume, we focus. It's unlike the Forex. The Forex has 3 sessions, so it's spread out. But the ES is, follows regular trading hours, U.S. trading hours in accordance with the stock market. Whenever you have a market like that, the fib work should focus only on those regular trading hours, not when there's extremely low volume. Okay. As a matter of fact, in my daily update, what I do is for gold. For example, the GC contract, I do regular trading hours. The ZG, which a lot of people got into because it was electronic, originally, I do that one 24 hours because it has more steady volume throughout the period of time.
But whatever it's worth for the overnight session for the NQs and the S's, I only use range for
Right, exactly. Well, that's my trigger charts are volume charts for the same reason. It doesn't move as much. We'll go into that in a minute. All right, so let's set up our support on, this is a 45-minute ES chart. That's the mini S&P. And I'm going to put more levels on this than I ordinarily would have because some of these are going to be kind of far away from the market, but it's to demonstrate, again, symmetry, support, expansion tool, high to low from the new high. And obviously, right now, we don't care about 1032. Like I said, if we got down there, we would because that actually represents the daily swing. Okay? But, so we can actually bold that and know that it's the daily support. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to take the outstanding swings into that low. And more important at the moment is since the major low here, I want to run, my support pullbacks. And I think for the most part, yeah, we're seeing breaks of these. That's why I was getting a heads up of the idea that the daily target was holding. Let's see how much this broke. 1079.25, 1077. Yeah, these are broken. I don't think we have nearby support symmetry. All right, which is a warning that there is some disruption to the strength of the upside pattern. Why is that? Because we're coming off the daily target that we looked at yesterday. Yeah, there's nothing here as far as symmetry. So let's change gears and look at retracements.
So it has to be perfect. There should be no penetration.
No, on the ES is 2 ticks for an intraday.
Is this a cash chart?
No, this is the ES, the S&P mini futures contract. Okay, this is at
1086, 1087, right?
right. Yeah, this is 1087, right? On the overnight. Yeah, this is actually tradable. There's no such thing as trading the S&P cash. You trade something that it's based on. So, all right. So I just ran from the major. Remember, this is the daily swing low. Let me pop up that daily chart if I can find it. One of the things that happens, by the way, when you hook up to these projectors, some of you may be aware of this, is that it ends up rearranging your charts. So, because it changes the screen resolution. So it takes me a couple of minutes here to actually find what I'm looking for. Here's the daily. Oh, and after all that, it popped up right on its own. Here's the daily. And you can see from the prior low to high, what did we get up to? An extension, which means the market is extended. Yeah, see that? That's what held on Thursday, and we started to break down from it on Friday. Question becomes, how far? Yeah, actually, that's why the extensions are green, because it's the color of the US dollar. So that's where you get your money. Okay? So yeah, that was the profit taking. You see the trigger here, even if you were trading on daily? This was a 50-14, or 50-20, I should say, because on a daily chart it's a 20. So the daily trigger didn't occur until about in here. If you were trading this, if you were a full-time trader and you had the opportunity to watch this during the day, you would have been scaling in based upon things like the 45-minute long side triggers. And then you would have been much more comfortable when it actually triggered long on the daily. If you were just trading my book, if you were just trading as an end-of-day trader, you'd have to wait for this 50-14, because until that happened, this could have failed. All right. But anyway, we hit the extension, so that's why we're concerned on our intraday charts. What's going to happen? Well, what started to happen is that we broke symmetry support. Okay, so there's from the last daily low, all these pullbacks had held. By the way, if we go back in time and we take low to high and project from this low or from this low, it was always holding. All right, so this is the first break of intraday symmetry support since October 2nd. All right, so it's a heads up that something's going on here. I did now the major retracement, low to high. Okay, and those are the numbers we see here. We know that if there's a great deal of interest, the 382 will hold, right? The 382 is never challenged on the way up. If we look at prior levels here, the 382 is never challenged. Okay, so what I'm going to do is bold the 382. as a reminder that if we actually saw that level, that would be quite a nice range today if we did, but if we actually saw that level, we'd have to watch for that as a possible hold. Now I'm going to take a closer swing low and also go low to high, because this stuff is what's going to affect the market more directly at the moment. What am I going to bold here? I'm going to bold our 786. Why? Because if the 786 breaks, we're heading for this 1272, which also would break the 382. Again, chart's telling me a story. If that breaks, it means that there isn't that much interest in driving this higher, because the 382 would also break. We'd be aiming for this 1272. Okay? So I'll bold these guys. That would be the initial downside target if we start to collapse. And now closer to the current market, I can take this low to high. All right, so we have not even started to actually see a collapse. Why? Because this 786 is holding. Okay? Everyone get that?
Just a second.
If the
Start drawing.
okay.
Okay, got it.
All right, this 786 at 1080 would need to break to take out the prior swing low here. Now that's obvious that has to break in order to take out that swing low. But the point is, my point is, that if that breaks, we're heading down to here, and then we'd have a whole bunch more symmetry resistance to project, because we'd be taking that low to high and projecting from a new low. We'd be starting to build a downside pattern. We'd also be breaking down below the 34 EMA. Okay, which, as you can see, has held all the way up. Okay? Yes?
You mentioned in the note somewhere that some stocks are just bumps in the road and some are important. When you take all those, well, they're confirmations, which one do you ignore or which one do you place emphasis on?
The levels? Well, the 786 is important.
Okay, that's
Yeah, the confirmation levels would be 50%. I mean, like now we held it at 50%. That's, not that important. It could be a temporary hold, but the thing is, until we have a support break that's pointing us lower, let me show you something. What was important is if we take the last swing into the high with our retracement tool, low to high, you see, it made the initial downside target already. All right? It broke it, but the point is it made it, so it doesn't owe us any more downside. All right? So I'm going to take that off the chart because it is broken.
okay.
And we would know then, for example, here would be another bump in the road. Good question. 786 break here would be aiming us at this level. So if we see a pause at the 1618 here from the prior swing, it's probably temporary, because this 786 break is aiming us lower. You got that? In other words, earlier on, I would have thought this was more important. But because the pattern is set up in such a way that this break points us lower, it de-emphasizes the importance of anything in between.
Why wouldn't you take those lines off now?
What lines off?
The ones that you think are less important.
Because the market might stop there temporarily. It still is a target of a prior swing. Someone trading shorter term, if I were trading, if I had a short coming into play and my indicators said there was a reason to doubt it was going, there might be, that might go like this, bounce like this and then down. So I still want to know that it's there. Even if it's temporary. Temporary obstacle can still be important enough that you want to know about it. Depending on your time frame in trading, you might just want to take profits and go, you know what, there's a reason for it to bounce, and if you see it hold, and I have something, CCI is just maybe looking like it's going to trigger long on a higher time frame, so you know what, I'll take the profit from this trade, and after the bounce I'll look for a re-entry short to get the next target. Okay? On the ES intraday. Yes, intraday. Yes.
The 786 is at about 1080, right? Over there.
It is, yes, it's 1080.
So it's like we are far away, like 20, 25 pips from that, no?
At the moment it's 1086.75.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Why don't we go and look at the shorter term chart?
We will, but I have to set up the 45-minute first, and that's where the pattern is prevalent. I found that one thing we're concerned about is when is the daily pattern going to shift, and a lot of the time on the index futures, the 45-minute chart is very important for clues in that regard. So I always have the 45-minute running. Okay? All right, so we got all this stuff set up. What's the next thing to do? Well, I want to take this high to low with the retracement tool to find out what's in the way here, and also if it rallies, where are the next targets? Okay, so we go high to low. All right, so we broke the 618, didn't break the 786. What does that mean?
Possible Gartner?
Possible Gartley. Okay, possible Gartley. Zig, zag. If the downside 786 breaks. At the moment, we're between them, pre-market. 1086.75, so we're right around here. All right, there's upside momentum pre-market. We'll have to see what happens at the open. But possible Gartley. That's why I'm saying, though, even if there weren't, I didn't do this fib work looking for a Gartley. This is the fib work I'd be doing anyway, and the fact that it did that, rallied up to between the 618 to 786, light bulb, possible Gartley. Okay, what would confirm the Gartley setting up would be the break of the 1080 to get the zigzag. All right, what do I have to do then? One more little step. Expansion tool, high to low from this interim high. And that gives us the Gartley support from 1071 to 1074, rounded up, 75. Okay? So that's our Gartley if it breaks down here. Like I said, unless something weird happens in the next 15 minutes, we're opening closer to breaking the 786. Okay, so we'll see what happens with that. One more thing I can do on here. I like to have a higher time frame target. We know that the daily target was met on Thursday. This is the same swing as on the daily. All right, and the only reason I'm putting this on here right now is because I want to keep the 1618 daily target up here. Why do I want to keep that? Because it's a really strong target, and let's say there was a powerful rally this morning. Let's just say it breaks right through all this stuff. If it broke through the 1618 from the current swing, I'd be like, hamina, hamina, hamina. What's the next target? So now we have the next target that's of any importance on the chart. All right, so that was step-by-step run through of the 45-minute chart. Okay? Now, the 15-minute, I just want to have a little bit of the closer stuff. All right, so these are first I'm just doing the same swings as the 45. But we have a couple of other things we can look at here on the 15-minute because we have a smaller swing right in here. So one thing you can notice is that low to high from low, this would be how we would measure whether or not there's a rhythm to a downtrend forming here. Okay? And right now at 1086.50, we're right there. We're going to open right there. So that's going to start to give us a clue what happens right after the open as to break one side or the other. Okay? We're also, just to notice, we're between 786 levels. Okay? And crisscrossing the 34 EMA. So what I always say in a case like that is we need a 786 break. So we're sure that we're not just congesting and bouncing and all that stuff. Okay, so that's all we really need on that chart this second. I do take it down to the 3-minute. I'm going to wait until after the open on that because we have a potential pattern shift. If we open here, there's really nothing I can do on the 3-minute chart this second. Okay. And yes, as far as, let me just go over what these charts are quickly, do you need to change the tape?